No, I don't know what I expected.
Good evening and welcome to the Joust. My name is Naggy. I'm here again with my co-host Liam McNeil. But Liam, it's also time to welcome our musical guest for this week. He is the bandit behind the keyboard. He's wanted in 7 Australian states. Hide your daughters. He's out of Silverwater, Mr. Canoe Sprint. Thank you, Canoe.
Now, Naggy, you've mentioned that he's wanted in 7 states, but I think we really need to get to the crux of the issue here.
Yep.
States and territories.
That's
now,
right. Yep.
You're much more politically aware than I am. You know much more about the institutions of this country.
Yes.
What's the difference between a territory and a state, Naggy?
It's a great question, Liam. You see, a state is a state, and it has the state of in front of it. A territory, you see, has the territory somewhere also in its
But
name.
it comes second. The Northern Territory, the Australian Capital Territory. The territory is a suffix as opposed to the state, which is a prefix. Is that what you're telling me?
I am telling you that.
Oh,
That's
wonderful.
exactly
There we
right.
go.
You
It's
see,
quite simple.
Because you see, I believe there are 7 of them. Even bloody Tasmania is one of them, and that's I don't know if they're trying to remove themselves from Australia even further. They're probably drifting away.
Is there
slowly.
any sort of secessionist movement in Tasmania that you know? Because you've been a couple. I've been once, and I adored it. It's a wonderful place.
It is.
Is there a Tasmanian independence movement that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of, but what they do really well might not
alcohol.
be
Great beer and gin from Tasmania.
Whiskey. They
really
like doing
nice Pinot Noirs. Being quite a cold climate down there, they do a fantastic Pinot Noir.
Booze, whiskey, booze, wine,
very
cheese,
drinky place.
Cheese, which goes with the wine and the booze. They do.
I had some nice oysters there once.
Oh,
in Bruny Island.
Seafood. Yeah. They seem to do all those things. I'm not sure if they're the kind of industries really to sustain movement to move away from the government.
Right. Okay.
But I tell you what, if they did, they would have a couple of happy months where they would just be pissed and jolly
and full of food and then they'd have like that post-lunch nap that will probably go for a decade and a half.
That's right. You said they could just sleep it off. They wake up in 2026 and they say, what have we done? What have we done? There's no money coming in and our roads are falling apart. Roads, they don't do...
The Greek economic model.
That's right. They retire at 56. Nothing gets done. The roads are terrible over there. Driving on... They got the...
Well, when you're using a horse and buggy, you don't really need, prominent infrastructure to support it.
No, that's right. Horses go where they like. Fields, they make their own roads through. If there's bushes, enough horses go through there. It becomes a road.
It's a road. Yeah. Who decides where the road is, Naggy?
The horses. That's the system they have down there. And I tell you what, it's not exactly working for them. It's a letter system, A, B, and C. A road looks like a road that you might see in any sort of developed country. B road, you don't know where you're going to get. Sealed, unsealed, hills, no hills, turns, and then if you go all the way down to the third class of road, it's barely a road at all.
It's not a road at all.
No, really, no. It's
these are the hard questions that the bigwigs at the top aren't going to ask you. The Fox Sports shills, they're not going to talk about minor town planning issues, that's for certain.
Yeah, quite honestly, choose your own adventure when you go to there, because I don't think even GPS, I don't think Google's even really locked into Tasmania.
Right. They're still using Alta Vista?
That's right. They just say, good luck. I need to get from here to here. They go, I don't know. You let us know when you get there. Maybe
they start here, finish there, choose your own adventure.
Draw a few maps on the way. That would be doing us a great favour, they say. Liam, it's without looking too far ahead with our wonderful 2 games of rugby league, which only could be viewed at the greatest pub in
are
Newcastle.
they 2 wonderful games that we're discussing?
Well, they're going to be 2 games of wonderful sport, the sport that we love, only to be viewed at the best pub in I'm going to say in New South Wales, and Tasmania.
If not the country.
Throw Tasmania in there. Well, I don't think Tasmania can beat them.
You go to the states, you go to the territories, you're not finding a better venue.
That's right.
To serve alcohol and lunch.
It's in the perfect city, in the perfect state. That's the Wickham Park Hotel.
I drove into Newcastle for the first time today in a few weeks. But isn't Newcastle just the best city on it? Except for all the Sydney people who have joined Newcastle all of a sudden.
That's right.
It really is a wonderful place.
Yeah. They're the outsiders, the blow-ins, if you see. They've come in on
planes and ships
on the last trains.
Yeah.
Some have swam here. Yeah. It's not far. It's coastal, you see. But Liam, it's time to discuss all the important things, and in the time for the news.
News.
So much news happening, and what came across my desk this morning, Liam, I received a...
So our house is very small. We don't have a desk.
Yes, no desk. I was at my desk.
We have a table, but there's no chairs.
I was working away with my half moon glasses, as you do, and then you were, surrounded by,
the big leather wingback chair.
Exactly. I leaned back and go, gosh. And then when I got this coming through on the telegram, it said that Sean Johnson is set to retire at the season's end.
Well, of course, he's been around the NRL for so long that his initial contract with the Warriors was sent to him via telegram.
That's right. Yeah. No, we have that. We have that in kinship, if you will. Now, where do you remember Sean Johnson? What springs to mind for Sean? Because he's
2011.
Yeah.
I think it was his first year in the league. He came in as this kind of touch football playing prodigy. He was steppy. He was exciting. He was fast. He threw mad shapes at people. He was just everything that's great about rugby league. Fun, excitement, joy, cheering.
Shapes without the gang signs.
Yeah, all those. Absolutely, all those. But I think the thing that struck me most, and we've discussed it at length on this show, is Sean Johnson's smile. He's been a great rugby league player. He'll be remembered for his skill, but to me, he'll be remembered for his peepers, for his grin.
Do we think potentially he moves out of rugby league and into what he might want to move into is just films because he's so handsome?
Face modelling, perhaps.
Well, I don't know. I think Daniel Craig's no longer doing any more James Bond. Do we see a New
ready
Zealand?
For a Kiwi Bond?
Yeah, Kiwi Bond, because we've had an Australian. We've done that with George Lazenby. We've had an Irish Bond. We've had a British Bond, of course.
A Scottish Bond with
Scottish
Sean Connery,
Bond,
of course.
Yeah. Well, really, it's between New Zealand.
Time they reach out to the colonies again.
Yeah.
Being a great colonial bondsman.
It's between them, the Welsh, and the Indians. Really, there's left. So it's...
Well, now, I don't think the great people of Britain would accept a half Laotian Bond.
No, potentially not.
That's another thing. Everyone assumes that Sean Johnson is Maori, but he's not. He's half Laotian, half just white guy.
Walk me through Laotian, Liam.
From the country of Laos. It's a small country in Southeast Asia. Heavily bombed by the Americans during Vietnam.
Oh, the country that they shouldn't have been there, but they were.
But they weren't.
But they were.
Yeah.
And they were doing lots of bombing.
Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't good. Robert McNamara and Henry Kissinger should have been hung. They should have been sent to The Hague.
I think
so.
said,
we're done with you.
Yeah.
Robert McNamara running the defence industry of the US like it was the Ford Motor Company where he'd just come from.
Yes.
These men should not have been allowed to rest on their laurels well into retirement.
Of course.
Kissinger shouldn't have been allowed to live to 100 years old.
I don't think so.
No, he shouldn't have. No. And it's all his fault that Sean Johnson isn't, an immortal. I blame Kissinger.
Well, have we ruled out possibly that he might be an immortal because he survived all that, the Johnson family.
Yep.
And the only thing that's showing that he might not be immortal is the fact that he is slowing down in his later 30s.
And he's never played State of Origin. They don't like foreigners to join the Immortals, do they?
I'm not sure.
They only like Australians.
It is something that we hold quite dearly to the State of Origin is that you have to be from the mainland.
You have to be,
or Tasmania, potentially.
Or unless you're Tony Carroll. Tony Carroll, famously not from the mainland.
That other fella from Queensland as well. He went on to play a lot of rugby union, or he played rugby union in between.
Brad Thorne. Yeah. What was that? Who was the other New South Wales prop from... James Tarmo. He was from across the ditch.
He was, yeah. Also might be immortal. We're not sure, but he played over 300 games.
Do you think Tasmania and New Zealand would swap their sovereignty? Tasmania becomes an independent nation. New Zealand becomes a state of Australia.
Oh, I see. I'm doing the swapsies.
Swapsies, yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone's really considered that. We might reach out to
I'd love to hear what Sean Johnson thinks about this. Yeah. Sean, if you're listening, give us a call.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, we can get Laos involved. Yeah. Maybe they can broker the deal, their third party, and just talk between the islands and say, look, maybe it's not working out as it is. Yeah.
But
hang on, we've got a phone call from here. Hello.
Yeah, not for me, thanks.
Okay. So that's thank you, Robbie O'Davis, informing us that he's not for the swap between Tasmania and New Zealand. He wants to keep things as it is.
Yes, he loves this country. He's proud of it the way it is, and he wouldn't have it any other way. But I think Sean Johnson's legacy, just before we switch off to a different topic, will be the legacy of a man who loved football and was great at it while he was smiling and loving it. I think he's been a wonderful asset to the game.
I think
and in retirement, I say put him anywhere that his face will be prominent because it's so beautiful.
I think it's wonderful. I think he could be the face of the new team, possibly coaching. Are we talking about coaching the new New Zealand rugby league side?
Yeah,
the
that'd
second
be exciting.
team. Yeah,
exciting.
Could be seen. Maybe one of those sort of captain coach comes out of retirement.
Yeah.
He says, boys, I'm ready to do it all again.
That's a great rugby league tradition that needs to come back.
The captain
role
coach.
of the captain coach.
Yeah.
There's something honourable about being able to coach and captain a team.
Well, I think the last time it was done, not successfully, mind you, was Wally Lewis of the Seagulls.
Yeah, the Gold Coast Seagulls. It was it was a terrible failure.
And
it went horribly.
Crashed into the ground and burst into flames. It was never to be seen again, probably for the best.
Well, yet another example of the Gold Coast being the graveyard of rugby league.
Yeah,
you don't go to the Gold Coast to kind of boost your standing in the game. You go there to die.
And money.
But you die rich.
Women and money and because it's a wonderful time up there if you like to party, but it's not really a good time if you want to have sustained success as a professional.
The year you left for the Gold Coast, you spent a year there. You came back 7 years older.
Yeah, I did. I aged terribly. Yeah, if only I had some.
You're the only person who lived on the Gold Coast that seemed to enjoy it and didn't come back with a lot of regrets.
Well, it's because I left. You see, that's the key to enjoying the Gold Coast is getting out of the Gold Coast.
You got in, you sowed your royal oats, and then you buggered off.
I certainly did. Liam, there's players moving all around, upsies and downsies, and a bit of player movement.
Where are you going?
It's a great question. Thanks, Canoe. Where are you going now, Liam? There's been an interesting trend that happened in the last few years where we saw what I like to think the salary cap working, which was the lower teams that weren't performing very well got to pluck the talent from the top teams, and we saw this with Isaiah Papali'i coming from at the time the grand finalists down to the Tigers down there at the bottom of the ladder, and then we also saw players like Stephen Crichton going down to the Bulldogs,
cellar dwellers at the time. Kickow did the same as well.
That's right, and
Matt Burton did this, but apparently it's all just Penrith. Penrith have gone to all the bad teams.
All of the Dogs, apparently, yeah. And then, but now we're seeing it almost like a bit of a rebound. Almost
because
like
you're right. The trend that we've just discussed was a great example of why the salary cap, in theory, should work. It balances out the playing field. It levels, if you will, the playing field. You get the spirit level out, you sit it down, you say, there's the playing field. That's how it should be.
And it says, my team's not very good, but we've got lots of money.
Yeah.
So we'll simply take one of those fancy, talented players from the top.
See, the Knights never really caught on to that.
We
took the players from the top teams, but they weren't the good ones.
They weren't the good ones.
We didn't get the good ones.
We like the older ones. But now what's happening is similar to what you might see as 1980s America, Reagan economics, which is it's set up. Thank you very much. I was going to call him Reg Reagan, but it was Ronald Reagan, his brother. Ronald Reagan said, this will all work out, guys. All you people making money will simply trickle down all that money.
It's the great myth of trickle-down economics. What do they say? The people at the top are just looking down, shitting on everyone, and the people down the bottom are just looking up, and all they see are assholes.
That's trickles, and they trickle the feces. You see, is hitting them in the face. And what's happening now is we're seeing a bit of a rebound.
So you're saying there's about to be more deregulation in the NRL? Is that what we're going to see?
Well, the system just isn't working. Much like we can look at the American system now, the system's working because we have Stefano from the Tigers going up to the struggling team of the Melbourne Storm, as well as Isaiah Papali'i. He said, "Hey, I liked winning games. Now I'm losing games. I might go to the Penrith Panthers."
It's good to see these hard on their luck clubs like the Storm and the Penrith Panthers. They're crying out for the injection of some young superstars. We saw Blaze Talangi from the Eels, of course, now who'll be going to the Panthers as well. It's good to see those clubs that really need star power. They really need
a bit of oomph
up them. I think 3 premierships is fine.
No, 4 grand finals.
About 4?
Yeah, well,
what about 5?
What about 5?
Yeah.
It is a bit concerning when we look at the table at the moment, Liam. Now, I'll cast your mind back to 2018, where we had the Sydney Roosters win a competition. Now,
2 in a row they won, in fact.
And they won again in 2019. Yeah. First time in the modern-day NRL that a team had won 2 times in a row. And they said, don't worry, guys.
Of course, before that, it was 92-93 Broncos won.
That's right.
Beating St. George both years, I believe.
And they said, don't panic. everyone. We've got a plan here. The system will work, and that system gave Melbourne Storm the next premiership in 2020, and then Penrith have won the most recent 3. Now, if we look on top of the ladder there, Liam, the Melbourne Storm, Penrith Panthers, and Sydney Roosters should, in this system, be collapsing down the ladder.
They should be, Naggy. But are we seeing maybe that capitalism in and of itself is not an honourable system?
It might be that. I don't know. I'm not an economist. No, I actually failed my economics class the first.
This is the man who used to buy toilet paper in 2-packs from the server.
Well, it was convenient. It was certainly convenient, and I tell you what, when you got to go,
it's the most fiscally irresponsible decision I've ever heard anyone make in their life.
And I tell you what, those fellas that ran the service stations were true capitalists because they knew the demand and supply was definitely on their side.
So it's easy to save money. Just go do a poo at the pub.
Well, you could do that as well. Paper. That's right.
You're obliged to buy a schooner, but that's what, $6.
Yeah, well, that is. Well, you could go there. Obviously, the Wickham Park Hotel is a very supportive of anyone that needs to shit around the area.
Have a punt, and have a poo.
That's right. The 3 Ps. The 3 Ps.
One of the finest afternoons you'll ever spend.
I've always been a fan of the drop-in, I call it.
You drop in, you drop off, and you bugger off.
Liam, there's also, if we're looking at the ladder at the moment, if we're comparing it to last year, it's not all upsies. There's actually some downsies, and what I like to call a bit of free falling.
There's been a lot of downsies this year compared to last year's upsies. And like you said, if we look at it this year, there are certain teams that were in that logjam we were discussing last week that have dropped way out below the logjam.
Now, unfortunately, our beloved Newcastle Knights aren't safe from this particular
I would say we're the poster boys of it.
We could be, and we probably would be if we look at last year's in 2020, sitting up there at 5th. We're joined by the Warriors at 4th, and we look even higher. We see the Brisbane Broncos at number 2.
What a fall from grace for the Brisbane Broncos! My goodness.
And keep your eye on Rabbitohs at number 9 there. And then if we fast forward now, Rabbitohs have dropped 6 places. The Newcastle Knights have dropped 7 places, and the Warriors have dropped 8. And Brisbane has topped it all off.
That was some great numbers there.
By dropping 12 places down the ladder as it stands at the moment. Now, Liam, what would you think? I don't think any of these teams, looking at this, Rabbitohs, 9th, they're hoping to finish 8th or higher. The Knights, the Warriors.
I think all teams hope to finish 8th or higher.
That's
right.
Kind
of the point of the whole system, you see, is to finish in the top 8.
I think they were all going in confidence, saying, we can improve on this year. But actually, all of those teams just mentioned have deproved.
Yeah.
That's right. As well as the likes of the Parramatta Eels. West Tigers, luckily, are there to catch everyone and say, don't worry, guys, we're down here.
Which that's the great thing about rugby league. At the end of the day, you can have the worst team in the world. Your team can drop down the ladder, but still, we're not the Tigers. You can always rest easy knowing that we're not the Tigers.
We're not the Tigers.
Which the Knights used to be that. Other teams used to we're
not the Knights.
The Knights can be our favourite second team.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not the Knights.
We're not the Knights. Yeah. But now we can say that about one other team. Maybe that is the real victory about the NRL rolling competition, is that we are, in fact, not the asterisk Tigers.
Because I remember in the mid to late 90s, the catch cry was, well, we're not the West Magpies. Then late 90s, early 2000s, well, we're not South Sydney.
Not South Sydney.
And then, of course, it was the Knights, and now we're not the Tigers.
Yes. Well, we're trying desperately to get out of this fold by signing some new talent and, of course, using the tried and tested method of Mrs. Brown's buttered chicken.
Mrs. Brown, buttered chicken. Mrs. Brown, buttered chicken.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Canoe. Gorgeous woman. Mrs. Brown there does look a lot like her husband in a wig.
Very masculine woman.
But this is obviously what the Newcastle Knights use to attract players, and we're going to try that same tried and tested method. I think we said.
What do you think AOB's cooking? Obviously, Mrs. Brown cooked butter chicken. What is AOB's Mrs. chucking in the old crock pot?
Well, it could be. It's winter. We could be going
nice
for
beef bourguignon, perhaps.
Maybe a strog.
Love a good strog.
A stroganoff. Would you do it with rice or pasta?
Pasta. We were a pasta in the stroganoff household growing up.
I have seen some people do it with rice, and I tell you what, I don't associate with those people anymore.
I would do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people write off rice and gravy. Rice and gravy is a great combo.
Those two
Pork
together.
chops, rice, gravy. Ooh.
That the lovely fellows down there at Derby Raj used to do a nice student meal of
Sauce on rice,
$2.50. $2.50 sauce on rice. You can't get those prices anymore.
Not in this day and age.
No.
Not in this economy.
Not in this economy.
After what Tony Abbott did to this country.
And Reagan.
I remember the embassy breakfast, $5. Vote Tony Abbott in. Bam, $7.50.
It's none of it's strictly.
It's a national disgrace.
Really. Yeah. It's certainly
unfettered capitalism has ruined the culinary institutes of Australia.
We're looking forwards, Liam, that on behalf of Barry Toohey, the man that has also announced his retirement. We love Barry, but
didn't he announce that last year? He
seems to. He just seems to continue doing the same job that he retired from, which is journalism. So we're happy that
he's the best at it, though.
Oh, we love him.
So maybe that's it. He retired and he saw who was taking his, sitting in his seat, and he said, "No, I can't leave."
He said
it was his responsibility to the people.
It might have been the car park that he wanted to hold. I don't know. And he said, "I'm not giving it up." But we're looking at Jonah Pezzett, I believe. Pezzett, is that correct?
Jonah Pezzett. Now, Jonah Pezzett, quite famously, was at the Knights a few years ago because his father, Troy Pezzett, was involved in recruitment.
Okay.
And then conveniently, when Troy Pezzett left to go to Melbourne, didn't Jonah just happen to follow him down there?
Well, it's one car ride, really. You got to take the car. You can fly down, but you have to have a car. So he said, "Hey, Jonah, there's a spare seat."
And you don't want to take two cars down.
Yeah,
given
no,
the price of petrol.
No, of course.
Yeah. I paid $2.20 a litre for petrol the other day.
Now he's essentially
$10 in. The fuel light didn't even go off.
No, it won't go off.
It was lower somehow.
Mine just remains on. I've never seen it above the gauge. It is a good question to know, to wonder, to look forward. This is a Melbourne Storm product now that we're buying back at a high price. Terrible economics once again. Sell low, buy high, apparently, is the Newcastle way.
I've been saying it for years. Sell low, buy high.
But he is a Melbourne Storm half that has been playing well. 10 first-grade games. He's had opportunities. And seems to be playing quite well. Only a pup at 21.
Yeah, well, I remember the big thing about him was under-19 State of Origin 2 or 3 years ago, perhaps. He lit it up. He had a wonderful, wonderful game of football. And he's from Gosford, which Well, I know you live on the Central Coast, so you can't speak ill of it, but I will speak ill of the Central Coast. It's fucking terrible down there. Like I say, they just build a wall at a Wobber, and then another wall at like Hornsby.
That's right. Yeah,
and then just make the train go over
the top.
Wall off the Central Coast.
Yes,
but if there's good footy players coming from there, I say we'll take them. We'll take them. So he's a Gosford boy, so he's one of us, but also not really.
Not really, sort of.
Sorry to our Central Coast listeners, but live somewhere better.
It has to be asked the question, because we have seen these Melbourne products before leave Melbourne and then lose all their talents, like Samson without any hair.
It seems like they grow the hair when they go to Melbourne, and then it's cut off immediately. Remember we got Tim Glasby from the Storm?
We did.
Who else did we...
And Plotter,
yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying Cotter, like we'd signed someone named Cotter from the Melbourne. I don't know.
But will he be one of the graduates from the Jack Collier School of Unremarkable Boys?
Well, he's only in his early years at Jack Collier School for Unremarkable Boys. He's
barely graduated from there. But it's a question that rings back: is this going to be a Cooper Cronk, or is this going to be Brodie Jones, which is
Brodie Croft.
Brodie Croft.
Yeah, the duality of man, really, the Croft-Cronk kind of conundrum.
The Croft-Cronk conundrum. Yeah. It's like whether you don't really know which one you're going to get. Both come from Melbourne. Both playing halfback. You think, these look great. Melbourne just keep making them, and we keep buying them. But will it actually prove?
Because we all remember what happened to Brodie Croft, where he was signed to Brisbane. Immediately, he was made captain. He was on the front page of the paper. Yep. The Courier Mail put a photo of Seabold on and said, "This man will win a premiership," and they came second last.
That's right.
Will it be that kind of case?
Might have become last that year, but they came last.
Oh, that was the spoon.
They actually got the spoon. Yes. Yeah, they couldn't buy a win. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, and we'll look forward to seeing.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Like, we've already run 15, I think, different halves combinations this year.
Yes.
What's another 16th?
Hey,
what difference does that make?
Throw it in there. And obviously, we got the principal, Jack Colger, actually there, who used to teach him, who's actually...
Let's throw the baby in with the bathwater.
That's right. Now, Liam, it's not all... I was going to say not all guns and roses. It's not all roses and
Guns?
and that's Casey Badger, who's struggled to find her feet really as a respected NRL official, despite the fact that she is a very competent one. But a lot of people like to think, no, she isn't.
I wonder why a lot of these people think that, Naggy.
Well, it's come out today that Casey Badger was adjudicating the game of South Sydney, despite it not being a close game. But her husband, former referee Gavin Badger,
one of the best too. Gavin was a wonderful referee in his time. It was funny as well how he really glowed up when he grew that beard. All of a sudden he went from a kind of awkward-looking schoolyard fella to just this powerful, bearded monstrosity of a man.
Trendy haircut. Of course, him and Casey got along swimmingly after that and decided to get hitched. He said, I like refereeing. Why don't you come and join me?
Well, I think the only person in their right mind who would marry a rugby league referee is the kind of person who is also a rugby league referee.
Toughest job in the world, you have to say. But they've worked out. Graham Annesley there, he's a man with his finger on the button and his finger in his ear.
It's the wrong button.
That has said, we were unaware that her husband was actually working for South Sydney when
as a
she
consultant.
was as a consultant. And he just simply said, and I like this about Graham. He's very down the line. He said, I remember I passed him in the elevator the other day, and he's, we didn't make eye contact, but there was a sign of respect.
There was a mutual respect in the elevator,
and he simply said, I said, Gavin, what's going to happen with it? He said, it won't happen again. It won't happen again. It will not happen again. And I said, you've said that a few times this season, and he says, I know.
It's been a bit of a catch cry, hasn't it? Yeah.
I know. And then he cackled and left the elevator. I'm not really sure what was going on.
Now, I think this is just a symptom of the Annesley Abdo Volandis kind of triangle of incompetence.
It might be.
This never should have happened in the first place.
It might be.
But then also he's calling into question the integrity of, our fantastic referees, which is not something that the powers that be should do.
Don't set them up to be questioned.
And I think even the fact that we're considering Casey Badger as maybe a questionable match official comes back to the leadership of the match officials.
That's right.
It's hard to pin the blame on her when she's being led by incompetent boobs.
Yes.
They don't know which way's up, which way's down.
Yeah.
Does the whistle go in the mouth? Does it go in the bum? Who knows?
It's the blind.
I don't know what they're doing.
It's the blind being led by the severely visually impaired. It's not going to help anyone.
Yeah, and so I say let's pin this one on Annesley, as we usually do when it comes to issues of adjudication of rugby league.
Well, the axe has got to fall somewhere, and I think it's decided it's time that he puts his head in the hole of the guillotine. We are going to take a halftime break, and we'll be back after this short song by Canoe.
Jack Cog is school for unremarkable boys. School for unremarkable boys.
Thank you, Mr. Sprint. Is that what we're doing?
Should I do four? Like four and then four times through?
Yeah, just go through that once and then go through it one more time.
After they come through, yeah. Alright, yeah. I'm gonna make sure I can hit this bloody stopper.
I think however you stop it, it's going to be fun.
Just make sure I go out with the applause and we're good.
Yeah, basically.
Alright, you good, Pum? You good, Balaga? You want to put them on just for my...
Was that good timing then? Was that?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that was great.
It's good.
Alright, cool.
Wonderful. You boys good?
Yep.
Adam, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
When you see the countdown? Alrighty then.
Thank you, Mr. Sprint. Now, welcome back to the second half of the Joust. Now, Liam, if we are looking at the games of the Newcastle Knights... Now,
regrettably, we have to look at the games of the Newcastle Knights as part of the show.
Part of the show.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an old man, Liam. I haven't been around on this earth for too long.
Nor have I. I think we've been around roughly a similar amount of time.
Same.
34, 35 years, give take.
Give take. But it also feels like these years are repeating themselves over and over again.
Well, there's a few certainties in life, Naggy.
Yeah.
Death, taxes, and the Newcastle Knights losing to the Penrith Panthers by 8 points.
8 points exactly.
Some things are just, they're written in the stars.
They
you
are.
see.
Now, how are we moving towards, this is the Knights taking on possibly the greatest team that we've seen
Easily.
before.
I think it's beyond doubt that the modern day Penrith Panthers are the most dominant team in rugby league history, because we're not going to talk about the 11 years in a row St. George team, because there was no salary cap.
No, there was no.
Players had jobs. You had bricklayers running out against
Garbos
and Garbos running out against bricklayers.
That's
and
right.
That was about it. That was the only two jobs you could
right.
have if you were a rugby league player at the time.
Yeah, it'd be great if you were building a tip, because then you had them all working in unison.
I love that you still get every few years a garbage man turned NRL player pops up. Remember Matt King?
Yes.
He was famously a garbage man playing for the North Sydney Bears before he debuted for Melbourne.
With an afro, and then there was another man.
Aloni Vunikethi.
Of course, another
a good
afro.
Fijian boy with an afro. He was a garbage man and then played first grade for the Roosters, I think. Who's going to be the next garbage man to make it big in rugby league, Naggy?
Well, keep an eye out for the haircuts, I think. Maybe scope the barbers and think, okay, well, he's a garbo with an afro and not taking too much off the backsides or top.
And then do you remember in high school there was always that rumour going around that everyone's like, you should be a garbo. They make heaps of money.
Heaps of money.
Yeah.
Well,
that was always the thing.
They have a strong union, you see.
This country was at its best when we had strong unions.
Yeah. This is the anti-Reagan economics again, you see. And
communism works, Naggy. I've been saying it for years.
It's interesting when we're looking at last year's performances against the Penrith Panthers.
They were good.
But that's what we thought they were good, because we thought, hang on a second, we can tussle and toss with the best of them. And then
the old best toss.
But now we're struggling to find a win. And
is it because we didn't have our best in the game?
Oh, of course. Bradman best. Now we're back to backslapping mediocrity.
Which is what Knights fans are the best at. There's no team's fans in the NRL quite as good at backslapping themselves for mediocrity as the Newcastle Knights fans.
And we said, look, it wasn't a dumpster fire, but it might have been a smouldering paper bin. Yeah. It wasn't quite as extreme as we thought, but it was
still very dangerous.
Very concerning.
Yeah.
It was very worrying looking into our third loss on the trot. Now, it was always going to be a difficult game to play. But
I think I tipped Penrith 13+.
I think you might have last week. And
I'd given up on it before you even started recording last week. It was just an inevitability.
Well, down there in Penrith, Liam, it was,
we weren't down there.
No, well,
the men were down.
The men were down. No, we were watching with binoculars in a suburb that's very close to Penrith, maybe even Plains or something.
Rooty Hill RSL.
That's right. That's as far as west as we go. That's always where they make big announcements. If you're going to talk to the west of Sydney, you go to Rooty Hill RSL.
And if you're going to do a boxing match in the west of Sydney, it's always Rooty Hill RSL.
Well, you only have to go to the car park to see a good boxing match. Those are the best fighting men of the state are there, you know, throwing and jabbing.
And as men who've spent a lot of time in Newcastle, we are well equipped to talk about fighting.
Yes, well, that's right. Well, for a long time, Fanny's nightclub was seen as the most dangerous nightclub in the state.
Well, I think at one point it was Fanny's and SJ's were both in the top 3.
Yes.
And then Finnegan's was hovering there in the top 5.
Dangerous.
That was a time when we could be proud of Newcastle.
Well, they were dangerous, they were violent to go there, but I tell you, it was a safe place to go to enjoy a good scooter with a friend was the Wickham Park Hotel.
Well, everyone there's so friendly.
That's right.
You're not getting in a fight with someone who's automatically your friend as soon as you sit next to them.
Exactly.
That wouldn't happen.
You make friends there. You don't destroy friendships and marriages and all that and walk home with high heels held in one hand and someone else wheeling a suitcase that they've just packed because they said, I'm out.
And then someone's found a traffic cone, they're swinging at people. And,
of course. Yeah, that's the weapons that you can pick up on the road. There is the traffic cones.
Anything can be a weapon.
Yeah,
that's what you learn living in Newcastle growing up.
Right,
Anything's a weapon if you wield it violently.
That's right. That's true. It's all self-defense in the end. Speaking of defense, Liam, it was
the Knights was pretty good.
A reasonable game there. If we're looking at the stats, where we were down a possession, but we were completing very, very high.
Which has been a bit of a hallmark of the Newcastle Knights' better performances this year. AOB said, boys, complete high, and we might win, we might not, but we might. We have a chance of winning.
To
have the chance at all is impressive.
Is the hope in front of us. Coming up against the best team in the league with Nathan Cleary playing.
Best player in the league.
Best player in the league down there in Penrith.
Where it's cold. very cold.
Foot of the mountains, it's freezing and it's hot, and they got the worst of both worlds down there. But we managed to complete very high with only 6 errors.
That's not many.
No, under 10.
I say that's good.
Under 10 errors, we usually are in these games. But Adam G, not known for giving his penalties, I know in the grand final last year, decided not to give basically any penalties.
Which is good. Rugby league is at its best when you're allowed free will to, wheel and deal in violence as you please.
They said, Adam G said, you know what, I've got to put the whistle back in the mouth. And he
not
pulled
in the bum.
No, he pulled it out of the bum, put it in his mouth. We don't condone that.
Did he give it a rinse?
Oh, well, that's why
Did he wash it with the magic sponge?
The magic sponge, give it a once over, as they say. Funnily enough, the P was missing from the whistle. I don't know if it's still up there, but it was 10 penalties to 6, and
that's not a very handsome stat, Naggy.
Well, it's not if we were competing. We were completing so well, but we were conceding a lot of penalties, Liam, and we were inviting Penrith into the game the same way they invited us to Penrith for a match of rugby league. We were inviting Adam G to pull the P-less whistle.
Seeing some of the penalties, Naggy, maybe there was maybe Adam G had a couple of bucks on the Knights to hit double figures in the penalty count.
He got there.
There was one Kalen Ponga penalty for a hit on Isaac Tungo that I thought was just a very good tackle.
Well, I thought it was one of the best tackles I've seen from Kalen.
Yeah.
And
it's not a big sample size.
It isn't. No, he's known for missing a few, but he stood in front.
That's the fullback's curse, though.
Yeah, he said
fullback's curse.
He said, "I'm going to go left. I'm going to go right. I'm going to turn my back," and then he said, "Whooshka!" And right as he always says, I said, "Kalen, you maybe drop the whooshka." He says, "No, I'm not going to drop it." And he hit him with so much force that it looked high.
Or was the whiplash effect? You see?
Yeah.
The whiplash that really got him.
Despite Kalen with his arms going under the armpit and most of the shoulder hitting the chest and neck, which I think is a great way to hit someone.
If you look at the rules of the game, if you look at the laws as laid out in the NRL rulebook, which apparently Graham Annesley's never actually done, that is a very legal challenge.
He goes off the vibe.
It's vibes to Graham Annesley. It's all vibes.
And so Kalen, with a very, very good tackle, was penalised, and we, despite that was at the time the scores were locked. The scores were locked at this point, and surprisingly to everyone, including myself.
I was surprised. I was following along at work, and the score didn't keep going up, and I was worried that the game might have been called off.
That's right.
Hang on, Penrith haven't scored 4 tries in the last 2 minutes. Something's gone wrong.
There must be a bomb scare. Everyone's left the stadium, but they're very comfortable with bomb scares out at Penrith. They say, "Oh, another one." That's what they say. They say, "Well, unless we get 3, we're not saying anything to the crowd." But there is Penrith managed to come through with the golden boy Nathan Cleary, the man with the chin as big as his penis, and which is huge, which is enormous.
What a big throbbing chin.
We've got with a throbbing chin there of Nathan Cleary, but also we've got, who's that on the back there?
That's something Mitch Kenny's got going on there.
Mitch Kenny. We got what's that? What else is throbbing? I'll tell you what, they get very excited out there, those boys in black.
Well, rugby league's an exciting game.
I think
Lots
so.
of groping and touching, and grabbing, and slapping,
huge erections,
enormous erections.
Yeah. It's all the testosterone they got down there, out there in the west, the foot of the mountains, and the foot of the penis
of the mountains.
The penis of the mountains is what I've always called it. Because if you're not really sure which way to go up the mountains, you have a glance across everyone, and everyone's saying it's up that way, not with their arms. With something else, with the penises. That's right. It is a disappointing way, but also a way that we might have expected Nathan Cleary to be the best player in the entire world, and has been for quite some time. To take it away
didn't the
from
Knights
us.
let him look like that. That try that he scored, which was I think the final try of the game, to seal it all, he just kind of strolled through. I think I counted 6 Knights players.
Yes.
Which again, for those not so mathematically inclined out there, is ever so slightly close to being half of the whole team.
Half the whole team.
Half of the whole team, and he just waltzed his way through.
He said, "No, touch me, don't touch me."
That's it. They wouldn't even show up on the missed tackles because they didn't even try.
That's right.
You can't miss a tackle you don't attempt.
Ineffective. Yeah. That's what they call them these days. But we also have the penalty count against the players. 1 to Kalen Ponga, which shouldn't ever have been.
Never
given.
have been a penalty. That's disgusting.
2 to Fletcher Sharp.
I expect Graham Annesley to come out and say, "Oh, the rules are the rules."
Yeah, very unsurprising. Jack Hetherington, the red mist, conceding 2 penalties, but that sort of get it out of his system.
Well, that's it. That's
before he even really starts going.
That's his warm up.
That's right. He's
give a couple of penalties away, and then I'm on for the rest of the day to have a good time.
That's right. He doesn't really enjoy himself. His wife says to him, "You don't smile today." He says, "No penalties," and then he likes to be back up against the wall. Yeah, that's the way that he really gets his.
Surprising to see Fletcher Sharp give away 2 penalties. You know, you don't often see small, fast outside backs giving away multiple penalties.
No, that's true. Look, and it was a bit unlucky for Fletcher Sharp because he is playing in a brand new position there out in the wing in his NRL. Has played a few games of fullback, as we know, to great success.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
So he's our wonderful
3rd best fullback at the Knights. He's the 4th best fullback in the NRL.
That's right.
Couldn't believe
it. And but we've been pushing for weeks to say Fletcher Sharp should be out in the wing for a bit of speed and excitement.
Yes. A proper old-fashioned winger. Speed and excitement.
Speed and excitement.
Back when wingers were ugly.
Yes, they certainly are. They certainly were. Now they're golden boys. They're big and tall, 6'5", 120 kilos.
Powerhouses.
Can run the 100 in under 10 seconds. But no, Fletcher Sharp is a good, honest
amazing.
speedster.
The Olympic 100-metre gold medal race. All the runners went less than 10 seconds. Yeah.
But Fletcher Sharp held
I ran a
up.
10.3 100 metres.
Did you really? Wind assisted?
Well, they say that, but I disagree. I don't think there was.
But Liam, Fletcher Sharp holds a special place in my heart because he is...
and a special place on your head.
And in my head, because I like to call this segment Hats Off for this week.
Hats off. Hats off. Hats off. Hats off. Hats off.
I
Those
think we've...
listening in the audio medium didn't notice Naggy and I just both frantically try and calm our hat hair.
That's kind of a hat hair, cover up where our hairs are receding. You see, very self-conscious. Not like Fletcher Sharp, a full head of hair. Some would say,
Full, rich,
luxurious
head of hair.
Brian Pappenhausen from Wish, some are saying. I say no. He's a very...
He's from Timu.
Very, very good boy. And I thought he did particularly well, but put out there as a smaller winger to come up against a very formidable back five for Penrith.
That's it. That is a tough back five to come up against as a small, skinny, fast whippet of a man.
And he is a bit of a whippet of a boy, isn't he? Yeah. And I really thought that, it was either going to be feast or famine. I think he was coming up against Brian To'o.
Yep.
Oh, no, that might have been the other wing. But just
up against To'o or Taruva.
Either way, he had...
Again, Joust, is when the games finish, our brains forget everything that happened.
Hang on 1 second. Joust residents.
Yeah, that was true.
Thank you very much. That was Struva. Thank you, Graham.
On the phone, that was true. Oh.
No, that was Graham Annesley who let me know about that.
Sania calling up. It was me, you dickheads.
So Struva.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Graham. He sounded very upset, but he must be watching the show live. It was interesting to see the Fletcher Sharp coming through in a brand new position, but I think he's held his position this week, and I think it's for someone to come out against playing fullback for a few games, being dropped again, and come out in the wing, often a front rower style of a player, and he's done very well for a bloke that only weighs about 81 kilos.
I feel like we've unearthed something special in Fletcher Sharp. I think we've got a real good one on our hands, a real good one.
Speaking about exciting and special performances. This is more of an old school sort of you might see this in the younger grades. Thomas Carnley.
Yeah, this is a performance for the rugby league purists. It's not often in this modern professional day and age that a man gets the opportunity or the privilege to play 2 games of rugby league. It's the finest thing you can do is play 2 games of football in one day, and Thomas Cant did it. I think 36 minutes in reserve grade, scored a try, and then backed up by suiting up in first grade with the boys at the top.
He said, I'm not finished.
He said, I'm not finished. I'm not done with you yet, people at the penis of the mountain.
Yep.
And he came on, and he had a strong game, Thomas Cant.
Yeah.
He sure can.
He sure can.
Sure.
Oh.
We've been asking all season, can he, can't he? But he can, and he did.
Jacob Saifidi getting injured in the warm-up, which is very 1980s, I think. And coming out of the side, and they said, who have we got? We got Thomas Cant. He's meant to be 19th man. We're going to promote him right into the side. Brody Jones comes in at 18th man. He played a full game for reserve grade. We said, the blood's already pumping.
And that was against Penrith reserve grade, which would beat most first-grade teams. So these are not easy beats that these boys played rugby league against.
Is Thomas Cant having the hardest journey into first grade for you, Liam? Obviously, playing, captaining the reserve grade, and then mostly in the forwards, middle forwards, prop, back row.
It's a tough role to back up too. That's not standing out on the wing doing your hair for 80 minutes.
That's right.
In the engine room.
That's in there.
In there.
And he debuted at centre, which I don't think was he got the opportunity at centre.
That was far from his finest
best
hour, but it's not his fault. Not his fault.
Back there in the forwards, and I think that's. I think
You don't
he's
throw a duck in a tractor and say, "Hey, go out and plough the fields."
No,
you put him in the lake and say, "Be a duck."
Be a duck.
Yeah. That's what they did to Thomas Kent. They put a duck in a tractor.
I said that for years. Now, Liam, when we take our hats off...
Did you ever play multiple grades in one day, Naggy?
Yeah, when I was under 19s for the Northern Blues, I used to play backup for thirds.
Oh, good.
Because I loved it. I just couldn't get enough of it. It was just exciting. You know? But that was the only time that I ever did that.
It used to be great when you'd play third grade and then the second grade coach would come in and he'd say, "All right, I need you, and you to sit on the bench for seconds." You go, "Yes, I can sit on the bench for seconds."
Oh, they didn't touch
All the
me
other
for
boys
seconds,
are cracking their beers. And you say, "No, I don't want that. I want
Yeah.
to play more footy."
Yeah. Well, so I was like, and under 19s was a much, much better competition than the third grade. So if anything, it felt great.
Third grade's fun though.
It is fun.
I love
it was
playing
certainly,
third
it was
grade,
certainly excellent for the up there at Nelson Bay Blues.
I made my second grade debut at Nelson Bay actually.
I'm so sorry.
2 tries.
Oh, well done.
That was good.
That was for the Wanderers against the
Gropes.
The Gropers.
What a strange name for a football side.
Well, it is a fish.
It is a fish.
But it's also a crime. So, which fits the area very, very well, fishermen and crime. Liam, when we take our hats off, we must return them to our head for a player that we think didn't really live up to standard. If we're going to return them to our head right now.
Yeah, you put your hat on.
This wasn't a hat that was fun to put back on, Naggy, because we've spoken, at great length about how good this young man has been for the Newcastle Knights this year. But Naggy, why are we putting our hat back on to Kai Pearce-Paul, KP squared?
Three letters, 6'5", foot of a man.
Yeah.
I just feel like
so much length about him. He's got great length.
We've talked all season about how he has a high ceiling, high ceiling of possibility.
Well, he has to have a high ceiling. You'd bump his head on
That's
it if he had a regular size ceiling.
Well, just looking for this
can't walk through doors.
extra part of his game. He's been given basically the starting back row spot for most of the year in a very highly contested back row spot. Often
easily one of the best back row rotations in the competition when you look at Frizzell, KBP, and the other breakouts are Dylan Lucas, of course.
Yeah, and it seems like he's fought his way through the competition there to get it, but I just feel like there's something lacking. There was a couple of errors from him at key moments, and I just feel like he is not playing up to his potential, and the potential kills me.
Now, to me, that's understandable rather, because it is his first full season in the NRL, and so far he's played every game, I think, and big minutes too.
Yeah,
big minutes.
He might have missed one or that, but I feel like he needs a bit of a break.
He needs a bit of a spell.
I think
he needs a bit of a rest. I think is fair to say, because again, he's come through the Super League, which is like playing against children.
Yeah, that's
he
right.
He played against youths in the north of England who have come straight out of the coal mines. They haven't had time to train.
Huddersfield.
And now he's from Huddersfield. And now he's over here and he's playing against full-time professional rugby league players. It's a different ball game entirely.
I think so. I'd like to see him in a bit of space, and he tends to take this overrun, like with the terrible ball that you get off the halfback, which you're running straight into the two defenders, and he's really been given none of that sort of exciting wide ball. I'd love to see those big legs move.
Well, again, I think it's seems to be a very
conservative
approach, which I think is good for the man, right? Because a lot of players like him come in with all the wraps on. He can do all the exciting, fun stuff.
Offloads and whatnot.
Amazing offloads, getting the ball around, holding it like he's a Harlem Globetrotter with one hand.
Yes.
But I think Adam O'Brien said, put that in the kit bag for this year.
Yep.
Let's just focus on the fundamentals, which is what I like about him this year.
We're taking the fun out of the fundamentals, really, isn't he? It's just the mentals are left. Yeah. So,
and that's what they call us now. The mentals.
Unlike the mentals, Liam, more people that have put the fun back into the game. We can't look past our ladies' side in the NRLW, which only thank you, Jesse Southwell, which has only come with a success, undisrupted series of green lights.
Very Penrith-like.
Yeah, it
the
is.
Women's Knights team. They're going for number 3 again. Are they the second best team in the professional rugby league era?
It seems like they are.
It seems to be.
I couldn't argue with that. And coming out 26-20 against the Canberra Raiders down there in Canberra, which
again, cold place.
Freezing.
Why were both our teams playing in cold places this weekend?
Well, it is winter.
Why couldn't they be up in the Gold Coast or somewhere?
That's true. That's true. We could always be doing that.
Yeah.
But I because of a short season for the ladies, Liam, every win's really important leading into the finals. And it seems like they put their best foot forward and their not so good foot to follow, followed by their best foot once again. But it just seems like there's just a series of success. I really hope to see them again in the finals to go for that three-peat without Uncle Ron there coaching anymore.
And without Millie Who.
Yeah.
Mrs. Elliott. No,
Mrs. Elliott.
Mrs. Elliott, no worries.
That's right, Liam. But if we look forwards, if we look backwards, not forwards, twirling, always twirling. There, it does seem that we've come up against some formidable sides in the last few weeks. Brisbane used to be one.
Brisbane's formidability at the time was considerable.
They've fallen back off, but we've come up.
Again, that great tradition of being bad, playing the Knights and being the best team in the comp, and then being bad again.
It seems like we've got an opportunity here. Maybe we're playing for pride. Respect.
Pride in the jersey.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's where Knights fans, that's where we're comfortable. We're happy when we're playing with pride because there's no expectation.
Sure, the season's gone to shit, but hey, we've got a couple of wins. That's what we used to say, and that's what we're going to say again.
We're back in those days. Doesn't it feel like you're getting back into a comfortable old coat?
Yes.
A coat named Pride.
It's got a few holes. Yeah, it smells of mothballs, but hey, it's ours, and it was cheap.
It's two sizes too big.
So we're coming up against the West Tigers.
One of the
week.
arms is longer than the other one.
Oh, you can't straighten both your arms. You have to walk around with one of them bent to hide it from the photos. And it was like that jacket that you sold me from Man to Man that used to work
and you
out.
had that for years.
I did.
Honestly, I thought it was going to fall apart the second you walked out the store, and I'd never see you again.
Yeah, it was one of the first meetings. Is that store still around?
No.
Man to Man.
Yeah.
That's really what it was called.
The best selling point of our suits was that you could throw them in the wash after you've taken a tumble at the Boxing Day races.
Well, there you go.
Didn't need dry cleaning. Just chuck it in on the cotton cycle.
Let us go in there. We're coming up against the West Tigers, a very
man-to-man of rugby.
Welcoming them to the Newcastle Knights at McDonald Jones home stadium. They're not just McDonald Jones's home, but the entire
I'm sure it's
stadium.
a lovely home. If you own a building company, you're going to have a nice house.
You should have. And so we're going to have probably another packed house there, despite our recent form. However,
Newcastle Knights fans turn up in droves despite the mediocrity.
And also, when we're playing a team that wears a bit of orange, we decided to don completely orange.
That's been confirmed. We're wearing the mining jersey against the Tigers again, as we do every single year, and it never works.
It seems like a sponsorship agreement that we really should come to an end, I think. I think everyone's sick of seeing this terrible orange jersey. I know people will say, we haven't actually lost that much in it, but I tell you what, it stinks. It doesn't look good. I don't know why we do it.
Also, how are you going to be sponsored by a thing of nature? What's going to be next? The Tigers are going to come wearing a wind jersey?
That's right, a turbine jersey,
Hi, we're sponsored by geothermal electricity.
Maybe they can all wear one of those hats with the propeller on the top.
For a hat that you used to see a lot, that was kind of the calling card of someone being young. The hat with the propeller. I never actually wore one, nor did I see anyone wearing one.
Could you buy one? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, all kids wore them, according to Hollywood.
Yeah.
I never saw an actual kid wearing one.
It does the same fun, a little propeller. You could just, I don't know. But you can never see. Put it on your head. It's like you're wearing a normal hat to everyone else.
Well, I had a hat that had a fan in the brim that pointed down at your face, and it was solar powered.
Okay.
Which, growing up in a very warm country, it's great.
You grow up in the future? Where was this?
Coffs Harbour had a really weird hobby shop.
Okay.
And it had that, like kites and Yoho Diablos and stuff.
Did it just blow the air straight into your eyes?
Yeah, like a fan.
One moment, please. Yes.
Mining jersey round will be September 1st.
Thank you very much. So apparently the mining jersey round is not this week,
good.
Which is excellent to hear because I'm sick of seeing it. And I hope that every week that I think that it might be coming up, I get informed that it's actually much, much further away.
Just kicking the can down the road.
That can down the road. I don't want to see it.
And that can is horrifyingly damaging fossil fuels.
Red and blue is a wonderful combination. I won't see it damaged.
Why would you mess with perfection? What they should do is change the mining uniforms that they wear in the mines to red and blue.
Simple.
Red's very bright. If you get buried under a coal, you can see red.
Yes, you're
It's the
bleeding.
same.
It doesn't matter.
It
You
just
can
blends in.
Continue bleeding. Blue's always good.
Yeah.
I don't think you ask a kid, what's your favourite colour? They always say blue.
Unless it's a girl, then they say pink.
Or possibly.
Yeah,
Well,
blue's very calming. You look at it, I don't mind my 18-hour shift swinging a pickaxe.
What's
At
pink?
the coalface.
It's just a really, really light red. It's a wonderful combination that I don't think they should mess with. It's like pouring a whole lot of salt into a delicious stew. It ruins it.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. And ruining a stew is one of the worst things you can do as a human being.
And salt's something that you mind. It's all coming back. Now we've got two previous meetings against the Tigers, both wins. We haven't actually lost to the Tigers since 2021.
I think you'd say that about most teams, though.
The
To be fair, most teams haven't lost against the Tigers in the last 3 or 4 years.
It's one of the teams. 2021 doesn't sound like that long ago, but it is probably is one of our longest winning streaks against us against a
the
side.
year 2000 was 24 years ago.
Good Lord.
Isn't that depressing?
It is. Thank you very much for that as I drive home crying. The last win against them earlier this year in May was the real difference between the sides was a young player named Bradman Best. Now, he is out injured, Liam. We haven't actually won a game without Bradman Best this year. Do you think we can do this without him?
Yes.
Okay, and we've covered that.
I've given that very little thought. No, I shan't entertain the idea again, but yes, Naggy.
If we look at the team list now, Liam, as always, there is a few nightmares of Christmas past, mainly David Clemmer in there. I'm not sure if there's actually another one because we usually have Stafford Toa, but he's out. Adam Dewey is playing well, coming back from what I believe is his 6th or 7th knee reconstruction.
Oh, he's reconstructed every knee in the whole team.
Yeah, I think
he's been borrowing knees off other players just to have them reconstructed.
Stafford Toa may have donated him a knee just to be playing. We obviously got the people like Charlie Staines from
Ferrari.
Yeah, the former Ferrari. Isaiah Papali'i scored 2 tries against us last time we played. Hopefully, he doesn't score any more.
I don't remember the last time the Knights played the Tigers because I was in the Tigers VIP tent getting Paro.
Of course, they're in Tamworth. Yeah. If we look at the Tigers' most recent games, Liam, there is what we see from the Tigers, despite them losing 30-48, 16-28, 28-42, they are scoring points and losing games. Now we seem to be losing games and not scoring many points,
which is the worst way to do it.
It is certainly a worse way. It's a worse trade-off. I've said it for a while. There, I called up AOB and I said we must score more points. And he says, just let it ride. I said, Adam,
just stick with me on this one, Naggy. Yeah. Well, just go with me.
It was after 7, so I think he might have had a couple of reds. But it's going to be a real challenge to try to control this because the Tigers could run away from it.
They're unpredictable in nature, these Tigers.
They got nothing to lose.
No,
they desperately want their 5th win of the season because they only won 4, I think, last year, and we desperately want to stay somewhat in touch.
We
want
to remain in the log jam.
Yeah, the log jam.
That's where we thrive, in the log jam.
I've always said it. The spoon is on the cards, West Tigers. It's not on the cards, the Newcastle Knights. However,
isn't it? Can we safely rule out that we won't come last mathematically?
I'm not even sure if we can. We'll have to ask Alan Turing.
Yeah, we'll ask you. But we'll get Alan on the phone.
We'll get Mr. Turing. But it's going to be a tough game for us if we can just break this losing cycle. And if we look at our run home, we've got the Sharks after this. They got a bit of a halves crisis. Rabbitohs, they've
got a bit of a whole club crisis.
The Titans at home, we typically beat them even though they're in good form.
The Titans worry me, having watched them the last few weeks. They are exciting. They are a fun rugby league team who can score heaps and heaps and heaps of points. Heaps of points. And of course, when they played the Knights this year, they did score heaps of points in a short period of time.
It's a run home that at the beginning of the season we're looking at. We thought, well, we might do all right. Now it actually looks like a bit of a danger run, and they're looking at us thinking, hey, we might be able to get a nice, tasty win.
I seem to recall 3 weeks ago looking at that run into the end of the season. I was somewhat confident. I said, there's winnable games there.
Yeah.
And then we lost the next 3, and there's no winnable games anymore.
It seems
They're
like
just games.
We must win against the Tigers. Not only we can put finals out of our mind, just for a bit of respect.
Pride in the jersey.
In front of a full house. That's no one's wearing the mining jersey.
I want some mediocrity to be proud of. Yeah. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Because pride in mediocrity.
Pride in the jersey that we like to see that that's not orange because it stinks, and we can continue on there. But if we lose against the Tigers, it's going to seem like the Sharks and the Rabbits might seem like an uphill battle. Liam, I'm hoping that we see it there, but if you're not seeing it at the stadium, because the stadium's going to be full,
and it's very far away,
you can watch it at the Wickham Park Hotel with all your
the
friends.
Big screen out there in the backyard.
Wickham Park Hotel, the only venue with live music and live sport all the time. You can't get enough of it all over the weekends, Liam.
And fantastic gravy.
I'm looking forward... Gravy Town. I'm looking forward to seeing the inside of the Wickham Park Hotel, 4 walls and beer garden, but also looking forward to seeing you next week and you next week to be able to talk about, hopefully, a Newcastle Knights victory. But if you like us, you can like us on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, Apple Tunes, all those social
Still
pipes.
haven't got that Twitter going, sorry,
No,
Joust.
that's all right. We'll get there. It's all called X now, apparently.
It'll always be Twitter to me.
Go you Mighty Knights, and we'll see you next week. Can't get my glasses on my head. We'll see you then, Jousters.